Folks, prices haven't really dropped. I'm going to talk about that and then get into the latest home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending October 8th, 2025. If you want to speak directly with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Prices really haven't dropped. Every now and then I'll come across somebody that says that to me. And if you go through the comments here on this channel, you don't have to scroll that far to see a comment that really talks about that says, hey, prices haven't really dropped. And then you scroll a bit more and the same comment is there again by somebody else claiming prices really haven't dropped. Look, I just want to deal with that comment on its own, because if they haven't dropped enough for you, that's a whole other discussion. But just on that, just those few words of prices really haven't dropped. Speak with anybody who purchased 21, 2022, 2023, even 2024. Speak with anybody who purchased back then and ask them, hey, if you had to sell your home now, what would it sell for? Almost all of them will tell you their home will sell for less than what they purchased for. I'm going to listing appointments, and almost everyone, that's what we're seeing. We're working with one of our buyer clients. 2 years ago, we were looking at properties, and for personal reasons, we had to stop the search. We resumed looking for properties. He's back on the buying of a property plan this summer. And it's amazing at the difference we're seeing with what we're looking to buy. He's saying, Santo, wow, it's like a whole different market than what it was 2 years ago. We're looking at properties where he's got the same budget, where prior 2 years ago, buying at the top end of his budget would be a property in that neighborhood that needed to be totally redone, updated. Like he was just scraping to find something that would fit his budget, and what would fit his budget needed a ton of work. Today, this summer, looking at properties in the same neighborhood, he's finding properties within his budget, the same budget, but these are properties totally renovated, move-in ready, or he could move up to a larger home. Market has changed quite a bit. Prices have come down. He's seeing that from trying to buy 2 years ago and then resuming the buying search right now. In fact, if we go back a little bit further, he couldn't even have purchased in that neighborhood. So over the previous few years, he sees that the prices have changed. I go to listing appointments and we'll do our research. We'll talk about what the home should typically sell for today in today's market. And sometimes the seller says, well, I had a different price in mind. And when I ask, well, what were you thinking? They quote me a selling price. I thought I would get this. And when we get into more of a discussion, they quote me a home that sold for that price in their neighborhood. It's similar to their home. And it's true what they're saying, that home is very similar. And it's true the price they quoted that it sold for. But that was 2 or 3 years ago in their neighborhood. And when I show them that was then, this is now, it's clear prices have come down. They have not come down at the same rate in all neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods, they've come down more than other neighborhoods. But ask anybody who's active, either selling, thinking of selling, where they've actually had a listing appointment and they could see what's actually been happening in their neighborhood. Anybody who's actively buying, and when they look at the history of that neighborhood, they'll all tell you prices have come down. If you're not active, I can see you thinking maybe prices haven't changed that much. If you're not active or you're kind of just starting and looking, but prices are nowhere near where you'd like them to be, I can see you also thinking prices really haven't changed that much, but they have. And I'm not telling you prices are great. I'm not telling you we're at the bottom. I'm just dealing with the comment, prices really haven't changed that much, because they have. If they've not changed enough for you, that's a whole other discussion. But you can't deny the fact that over the last few years, prices have come down quite a bit. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. And if you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. City of Toronto. We're focused on the freehold market here. I got detached, semis, and towns. I do have condos here. Today's show's for the City of Toronto, the freehold market. Tomorrow we talk about condos for different parts of the GTA. But when we look at the semis and townhomes, these are the freehold townhomes, looks like prices have been climbing. We're going to start off with the detached market for week ending October the 8th. 171 detached properties were sold. 37 of those were sold at $2 million or more. When we look at sales, doesn't seem like sales are dropping. There's an argument that maybe they're climbing, but it's not by much. But at the very least, since September 17th, week ending September 17th, so the fall market, sales have been kind of steady for detached properties in the City of Toronto. The amount of property selling at $2 million or more, also pretty steady, between 35 and 39 this week. We're sitting at 37, steady for property selling at $2 million or more. Steady sales in the 100 and high 160 something, 170 something. Average sold price came way down from the last couple of weeks to $1,517,000. It's tough to figure out which way prices are going, I gotta say. If we go way back to the beginning of the year, well, prices are much slower today than they were at the beginning of the year. So if we base it on that, we say, yeah, prices are down. If we look at most of the year, right up until about August, prices have been trending down overall. But since August, it kind of seems like prices overall are averaging more on an incline, trending upwards. Compared to last year, $1,517,000 is 14% lower than the same week a year ago. It's a very big week this week a year ago. The median price of $1,250,000 is 13% lower than the same week a year ago. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. And it kind of shows, I've got 3 months on the chart here. Average prices and median prices were trending down. Now they're trending up. But the current week we're in, they've come right down. So if just hear me out for a second. If these 3 weeks of higher prices, average and median, if they weren't there, the price that we're at now for this week kind of falls in line to where we were 3 weeks prior. So again, we're going to see what the future holds, but maybe these 3 weeks in here are the anomaly, and where we are now is kind of what's more in line to where we were prior. 171 we said were sold, and as I was saying earlier, it's kind of it's a little bit higher than what we've seen for this fall market. 50 of those sales, so it's 29%, sold at list price or more. Let's look at listings. So listings are declining. 433 detached properties were listed. Active listings really hasn't changed much over the last few weeks. It's currently sitting at 2,785 available detached properties for sale. So when we look at all the sales, 171, and we're saying there's 2,785 to choose from. Basically what we're saying is that out of all available properties for sale for this week, October the 8th, ending October 8th, 6% sold. That's what we're saying. So only 6% sold. But let's look at it from another data point here. Properties that are listed at $2 million or more. There's 958 of them currently, and that's included in the 2,785. So what we're saying is 34% of all active listings are listed at $2 million or more. And of those, 4% sold. So 4% out of all properties listed at $2 million or more are actually selling. That's in a week. Months of inventory, 3.8 months of inventory, pretty much a balanced market. But that's the whole city. Let's look at things from a different perspective. Let's break the city down into 9 different areas. I'm just going to point out a couple of things. So Scarborough had 47 sales. That's 28% of the whole city sale. Only in Scarborough, 28%. And then some of our more competitive neighborhoods, East York, Riverdale Beaches has a 2 months of inventory. High Park, Parkdale also 2 months of inventory. 46% and 48% in those areas are selling at list price or more. Those areas will be a bit more competitive than, say, Midtown with a 9.2 months of inventory. Remember, all of Toronto averages out to 3.8, but there's some areas at 2 and some areas at 9, 5.7. Scarborough's 3.3 months of inventory. Etobicoke, 3.6 months of inventory. Not all areas are behaving the same way. Let's look at 3-bedroom properties, and then we'll look at 4-bedroom properties. So 3-bedroom properties, 97 were sold for week ending. These are 3-bedroom detached properties. 97 were sold for week ending October 8th. 97 is the highest single week we've had this whole year. So sales trending upwards for 3-bedroom detached properties. Of those 97, 12 of those sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price since the beginning of August looks like it's trending upwards. It's currently sitting at $1,381,000. 1,381 is 1% higher than the same week a year ago. Here's 4-bedroom properties. Sales, it's the opposite of what's going on with 3-bedroom. Sales look like they're trending down. Not by much, but they're trending down since the fall started. 46 were sold for week ending October 8th. 16 sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price is $1,833,000. 1,833 is 15% lower than the same week a year ago. If you recall, the 3-bedroom average price is 1% higher. The 4-bedroom is 15% lower. And here's the comparison both. So if we look at the sales, the orange, it's 3-bedroom. The blue, that's the 4-bedroom properties. The sales of 3-bedroom every week basically far outpaces the 4-bedroom properties being sold. Months of inventory, vastly different. 3 bedrooms, it's 2.6 months of inventory. 4-bedroom properties, 5.3 months of inventory. The difference in average sold price, we've got 1,381, 1,883 is about a $500,000 difference in average sold price. Here's semi-detached properties. 59 semi-detached properties were sold. 12 of those sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price since the beginning of August looks like it's trending up. We're now at $1,298,000. 1,298 is 5% higher than the same week a year ago. The median price of $1,115,000 is 5% lower than the same week a year ago. Months of inventory sitting at 2.1 months of inventory. Almost half, 49% of all semi-detached properties sold at list price or more. Here's townhomes. These are freehold townhomes. 23 freehold townhomes were sold. 6 of those sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is $1,290,000. Sales are so few that you get a lot of these peaks and valleys. And since spring, average sold price for freehold townhomes looks like it was trending down. But now since mid-August, it kind of hit a low, and now it looks like average prices are starting to climb a bit for the freehold townhomes. For the average sold price is $1,290, is 12% higher than the same week a year ago. The median price of $1,205 is 5% higher. Months of inventory sitting at 2.9 months of inventory. Here's a summary of months of inventory. If we summarize all the detached properties, it averages out to be a balanced market. Between 3 months and 5 months of inventory is a balanced market. We're sitting at 3.8. But if you dive a little deeper, and I'm saying this because you could be watching this show right now and say, oh, it's a balanced market. And then you go out and in your mind you're thinking, I'm going to buy 3-bedroom detached properties. And it's not going to feel in some areas like a balanced market. It's going to be a little bit more, maybe leaning towards the sellers in some situation. And that's because the 3 bedrooms average out to 2.6 months of inventory. And the 4 bedrooms balance out to a 5.3 months of inventory. There's a big difference in experience there. Then you got your semis and towns. In most cases, you'll probably experience more of a balanced inventory, but there's going to be some competition in some areas for some home types, for some price point. It's not automatic balanced market out there. There can be some competition. We know that almost half the semis are selling at list price or more, for example. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.